2, 1.
7 things you probably didn't know you need to know. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Standout 7.
In the next 7 minutes or so, Last Christmas returns to haunt Boris in a week that saw new COVID restrictions as Omicron cases rise and Joe Biden warning Vladimir Putin to stay out of the Ukraine. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7. Don't forget to hit the follow button to get daily updates at 7 a.m.
My remarks seemed to make light of the rules. That was never my intention. I will regret those remarks for the rest of my days, and I offer my profound apologies to all of you at home for them. And this afternoon, I am offering my resignation to the Prime Minister.
That was former Press Secretary and now former advisor Allegra Stratton offering a tearful apology as she resigned her post on live TV on Wednesday afternoon. She quit because a video leaked to ITV News in which she joked about the number 10 Christmas party. Boris is furious about the video, but had no idea about a party.
I can understand how infuriating it must be to think that the people who have been setting the rules have not been following the rules, Mr. Speaker, because I was also furious to see that clip.
He also announced that the Cabinet Secretary Simon Case would now investigate whether or not there was a party, but Downing Street wouldn't comment on whether Simon was actually at the possible party, but the Met Police won't investigate due to an absence of evidence. So, just to recap, Boris denies there was a party, the person who made jokes about the party has had to resign, the investigator might have been at the party, and Boris is mainly annoyed about the video rather than a party that happened where he lives that he wasn't invited to.
I apologise for the impression that has been given that staff in Downing Street take this less than seriously. I'm sickened myself and furious about that. I've been repeatedly assured that the rules were not broken.
With absolutely no sense of irony, at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, Prime Minister Boris Johnson popped up in the Big Blue briefing room to announce new COVID restrictions. He says the spread of the Omicron variant, which appears to be accelerating at speed, with 568 official cases but potentially as many as 10,000 already in the community, means it's finally time to break the glass on Plan B.
It's now the proportionate and the responsible thing to move to Plan B, so we slow the spread, buy ourselves the time to get yet more boosters into arms and understand the answers to the key outstanding questions about Omicron. From Monday, you should work from home if you can.
Alongside a return to working from home on Monday, hi kids, is the extension of mandatory face masks and the much discussed introduction of COVID vaccine passports.
We'll also make the NHS COVID pass mandatory for entry into nightclubs and venues, including unseated indoor venues with more than 500 people, unseated outdoor venues with more than 4,000 people, and any venue with more than 10,000 people.
Happily though, nativity plays and Christmas parties can go ahead, but presumably only if they're at 10 Downing Street. Monday morning dawned bright and early with Prime Minister Boris Johnson dressed up in police gear joining drug squad officers on a raid in Liverpool. It was all part of a plan to announce a £300 million investment to close down drugs gangs, particularly those who operate across county lines. The 10-year programme also includes over £780 million to assist 300,000 drug users get access to rehabilitation. But the first focus is on breaking up the criminal gangs.
We want everybody to be able to grow up in safer streets. You're going to be tougher on the county lines gangs, you've got to be tougher on the criminals who are doing it, but you've also got to make sure that you find those 300,000 people and you help them away. You can't simply arrest them time after time and put them back in prison again and again. You've got to do rehab as well.
Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer, who was also up early to get his booster jab, says that there's a need for proper investment in the criminal justice system.
And the question for the government is not just over the plans today, but the money that they've taken out of the system. Millions and millions of pounds have been taken out of the system over the years, and that has caused a lot of the problems. So I want to see the plans, I want to see the strategy, I want the Prime Minister to take responsibility for the money that's been taken out of criminal justice.
The father and stepmother of Arthur Labino Hughes were sentenced to more than 20 years of jail time each last week for their parts in the death of the 6-year-old. It's a tragic case and it struck a chord across the nation as football crowds paid tribute and vigils were held across the weekend. Now, the government's launched a national review as his death came after social workers had found no safeguarding concerns. The review will aim to identify what went wrong and make changes to better protect vulnerable children. The Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel de Souza, told Andrew Marr that reviews into Arthur's death were not a quick fix and that it'll take time to change systems.
Arthur raised concern. He was not a baby. He was 6 years old. He raised concern and the system did not hear him. We must listen to the voices of children. But what I'll tell you is this is not a quick fix. It's a big job, but we must do it for Arthur.
Professor of Social Work at Kingston University, Dr. Ray Jones, says it's at least partly the government's fault as budgets have been cut.
Since 2010, local authorities who have that responsibility have had their funding from government cut by over 60%. There are fewer health visitors, fewer police officers now than there were before, and social workers are being run pretty ragged.
Still to come on the Standout 7, Joe Biden talks tough over Ukraine and Jennifer Lawrence has to explain the term GOAT to Meryl Streep. Right after this.
You're listening to the Smart 7. If you're enjoying it, you might also like the Smart 7 Ireland edition. Just search and follow us on your favourite podcast platform. Following Tuesday's Zoom call with Vladimir Putin and a round of consultation with his international colleagues, US President Joe Biden had more details on what went on during the call. He's ruled out US troops being sent to the Ukraine, but there'll be plenty of support through NATO and a clear path of consequences if Russian troops step across the border.
I was very straightforward. There were no minced words. It was polite, but I made it very clear. If, in fact, he invades Ukraine, there will be severe consequences, economic consequences like none he's ever seen or ever have been seen.
Melissa Laurie and her twin sister Georgia were swimming in a lagoon in Mexico this summer when suddenly Melissa was attacked and dragged under by a crocodile. Her sister fought off the croc not once but several times. They've both now recovered, the twins that is, we've not got a clue how the crocodile's getting on, and the two girls were on this morning to tell Phil and Holly the remarkable tale.
People speculate, but you don't know until you're in that situation how you're going to handle it. Yeah. And luckily, I just, fought on instinct. When I found her, she was just face down in the water, and so I didn't even think that she was alive at first. So that was very scary.
Jennifer Lawrence is back after a break from acting, and she's back with the insanely star-studded Netflix movie Don't Look Up. It's a comic disaster movie which hits cinemas this weekend and then Netflix on Christmas Eve. And it stars Jennifer Lawrence, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep, Ariana Grande, Cate Blanchett and Timothée Chalamet. However, all that star power got a bit awkward, especially when it came to Meryl Streep, as J-Law explained to Stephen Colbert on The Late Show.
We offhandedly call Meryl the GOAT, GOAT,
sure.
Like, the GOAT do that, yeah, the GOAT will go here. And we were doing a photo shoot and I, said something like GOAT, and Meryl kind of said, that's right, just tell the old GOAT where to go. And I was like, Meryl, you know that GOAT means greatest of all time, right? And she was like, oh, no. And we were like, we haven't just been calling you GOAT.
This whole time.
This whole time she was just like, I guess, like an old goat.
She took it very well.
This has been the Standout 7, the best of the week from the Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. with the Sunday 7. Have a great rest of your weekend.